It is Thursday evening, and you know what that means, guys. Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this new CBA edition of Believers Talk, where we're going to take a look at the new potential CBA that the players have yet to agree on and see how it impacts the NFL, us as fans, and potentially how it impacts our Buffalo Bills. Again, guys, thank you for joining me. My name is Joe. If you're new to this channel, you want to hit that subscribe button. If you're a fan of Buffalo sports, especially our Buffalo Bills, you want to hit that subscribe button. After you hit that subscribe button, you want to hit that notification bell. Notifies you when we put out new Buffalo Bills and Buffalo sports content. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and go ahead and leave a comment. Happy to reply to everyone who comments on the channel. I appreciate you guys for all that you do. Just give me 1 second here as I get on so I can see all your comments as well. And Buffalo sports fan, how you doing? Glad to see you in here. Again, I don't know what's going on my screen. Sometimes my screen acts weird, so I can't see your comments. So I pull them up on my handy dandy mobile device, so that way I could see your comments and we can get chatting, right? We could talk about the new CBA. We could talk about some of the new changes or potential changes. Again, the owners signed off on it today. Now, the owners, there was not a consensus, right? Or at least there was a majority, I should say. That's what we need in order for the CBA to go through. You need 66.7% of the owners to agree to it. And we know that that's at least what they got. We were informed that not all of the owners agreed to this contract. Can name 3 teams that probably did not agree to this contract, just because if there is an agreement on the CBA before next week, that changes a lot of things, and that changes some teams' plans as far as franchise tag and I'm sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Give me a second. Franchise tags and transition tags go in the NFL. So right now you can use both your transition tag and your franchise tag to hold on to a player in a contract year. If the new CBA goes through, you can actually only use one of those tags this off season. So obviously that changes some things for teams like the Dallas Cowboys. That changes some things for, I believe it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're looking to use both as well. So that changes things for some teams, not our team though. So I'm not sure where the Pagula stood. Let me know where you stand on the new CBA. We'll go over some of the new rules, like I said, new potential rules. We are waiting to hear from the Players Association. Now, the Players Association was due to meet tomorrow, but since the owners agreed, they're not going to meet face-to-face. Apparently, they're going to do this all via phone conversation, and there could be a vote tomorrow by the Players Association. So look out for that, and it's possible that by this weekend, we have a new CBA agreement between the players and the coaches that lasts a full 10 seasons. And guys, I want to talk about that for a brief second. I know there are some rule changes, and I know that some people are happy about them, some people are not happy about them, but the bottom line is we have football for at least 10 more years. We have no more negotiation contracts for 10 or talks for 10 more years, and we know that the NFL is safe in its new format, whatever that format may be, and that includes the potential for a 17-game season. And guys, I like this idea. I really like the idea of a 17th game for many reasons. Right now, if you look at the NFL schedule, we're having all these international games. In fact, this season, it's possible, and it's been rumored, that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to have 2 home games in London. I'm not a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. I know that we a lot of times here on Believers Talk and the Bills Mafia give Jaguars a hard time. But to play 2 home games in London is just unfair to the season ticket holders in Jacksonville. So what they're proposing with a 17-game schedule, now guys, the 17-game schedule would not go into effect until what we're hearing is 2022 at the earliest, okay? So it wouldn't go into effect next year, probably won't go into effect the year after that, but we're talking about the 2022 season potentially having 17 games. If you have 17 games, then they're talking about having 8 home games. You have your 8 home games. So let's say, for example, let's use our Buffalo Bills as an example. So if the Buffalo Bills, they'll have 8 home games in Buffalo. So we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about going to London and potentially losing out a home game. And then you have 8 regularly assigned away games, right? So imagine your division games, you have 1 of each. Your teams against the other division. You'll have 2 home, 2 away, stuff like that. But then it's that 17th game, which right now we're not sure how they're getting, right? We talked about how the current NFL schedule works and how you can really figure out who you're going to play year after year after year. And you don't know 2 of those teams, but you know who they're going to be by where they are in the standings, right? Like we know that we're going to play the AFC West ranked team where we finished. And we won't know until the season ends who that is. But I could tell you going on forever how the schedule is going to go. But now with this change, where are they getting that 17th game from? I think that's going to be a very interesting thing if they decide to move to 17 games. Now, if you're reading reports online, you know that some of the players are not happy about the idea of a 17th game. Some of the players are not happy with this new CBA. And like I said, nothing is in stone yet. So right now, what we have is we have this new CBA agreement by the coaches, right? They signed it. They said, we agree to this. And again, it was a majority, but it wasn't everybody. Not all the coaches, or at least reports say, not all the owners, I should say, agreed to this CBA. So now it's in the players' hands, the Players Association, right? So the Players Association, the player reps for each of the NFL teams, they have to get a 66.7% or 2/3 vote to pass that. But we're not done there. We're still not done there. If it passes that, it still needs a majority vote among all NFL players. Now, that's just one more vote than the negative. So it needs to be 50.1% of the votes compared to less than that. If it's anything less than that, the CBA is scrapped and we start again, or at least we start negotiating again. So we hope that the CBA goes through. I know there are some things that some people may not like, but like I said, leave it in the comment section. Are you a fan of the new CBA, or is this something that you're not exactly happy with? Or, some people just don't like change, and I'm normally one of those guys. I normally do not like change, but guys, the idea of a 7th playoff team, that has me excited. That has me excited. I know not all of you will not agree with me, but if you think about the potential, you have 2 more games. You have 3 games wild card weekend for each AFC and NFC. So you have a full slate of games those two days. That's exciting to me. That adds excitement to December football. That adds excitement to the whole season because everyone knows they still got a shot. And for people who think that won't work, right, or that they're not happy about it, think about what the Major League Baseball did, right? MLB went out and they created a wild card system of their own probably about a decade ago now, right, or a little less than that. And I wasn't a fan of that when they first said it. I was not a fan of the idea of a playoff system. But you know what? It's working, or a wild card system. It's working. They're making it work, and it's not that bad. You have that 1-game wild card game. I like it. It's exciting. It adds more revenue for everybody. I think it's a good idea. It makes games more meaningful during the regular season. We've seen teams that are barely above 500 make a strong push towards the end of the season, and then all of a sudden you got yourself a wild card team that's hot at the right time. You look at this past season, and yeah, you'd have an 8-8 team. I believe the Steelers would have been the other team that would have gotten in at 8-8. On the one side, you would have had the Rams on the other side getting in, so that would have been exciting. I haven't heard on the radio, they talked about a few years back in 2007 when Tom Brady got injured, and you had Matt Castle come in, I believe it was, and led the Patriots to an 11-5 record. They missed the playoffs that year. They still missed the playoffs. A team like that would make the playoffs. I feel like a lot of times these 8-8 teams, even though the Steelers would have been 8-8 and made the playoffs, but these 8-8 teams that were worried about making the playoffs are a lot of times division winners. We're worried about a team winning a division at 8-8, getting a home playoff game at 8-8. But you look at the way the playoffs shaked out this year, and that means for our Buffalo Bills as a 5th seed, we would have had 2 chances to play in the AFC Championship game or even in the next round of the playoffs at home, right? We would have had a chance to play at home. That opens up more doors for more possibilities. So I'm excited about that with the 7 people. Danny comes in. How you doing? Thank you very much. Love the channel, keeping me up on everything Buffalo. I'm trying to do my best. And guys, join me tomorrow. I won't be live. I'm going to be posting a video starting a free agent series, talking about free agency as we get ready for free agency to begin March 18th. So be sure to be on the lookout for that, guys. But again, I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. like this video and leave a comment, guys. Join the conversation. Let's talk about the new CBA. Let's talk about the effect that might have on our Buffalo Bills. And I hate to say it, guys, and I'm not a fan of this because I wasn't a fan of this the first time, but we might be saying hello again to a Toronto series, right? If we go to 17 games in the NFL, again, 8 games at home, 8 games on the road, and then potentially a game at a neutral site. Now, would they consider Toronto a neutral site? I don't know. I feel like Toronto is, 2-3 hours away from Buffalo, a little bit further from most other teams. Maybe you could play, I don't even know because New England's a division game, so you don't mix that up. But I'm not sure you'd play in Toronto, but you have that Toronto option out there. The NFL is really pushing this international schedule, right? They want to get football international because it creates more revenue, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the almighty dollar. We even see that with the possible 17-game schedule, right? Everyone in the NFL is talking about player safety, and now all of a sudden we're going up one more game to 17 games. Listen, and here's where I stand on that. That's up to the players and the coaches. That doesn't affect me, right? I enjoy watching football. I'm going to watch it for another week if I get that option. If the players, by majority, agree to this decision, that means they're agreeing to this. That means they're agreeing to another game. By majority, now I know there's going to be some. Emmanuel Sanders has spoken out on it. J.J. Watt has spoken out on it. There are some who are smart enough to speak out on the idea that having 17 games in a season is ridiculous. And I'm not saying I don't disagree with this from a player safety standpoint, but if you have a majority of your players saying, you know what, I'll take the extra dollars, don't come back 20 years from now and say, oh, well, the NFL caused me head injuries and they didn't let me know, or how are we supposed to protect ourselves in a 17-game schedule? And those players 20 years from now, do you know who they can look back on? This Players Association and say, you guys did this. And that's who you blame. You don't blame the NFL for this anymore. Concussions we know about now. We all saw the Will Smith movie. We know what concussions can do. We know about CTE at this point. So there's nothing new there, right? But you can't come at me as an NFL fan and say it's my fault. Nope. If you're going to offer me more football, more NFL football, I'm going to watch it. If you kept it at 16 games, if you kept it the way it is right now, I don't have a problem with that. I love the way the NFL works right now. I think these changes are better for the league, both as it comes to the revenue, as it comes to me as a fan. I think this adds more excitement. I think we're going to see that. Now, for everyone who thinks that this makes the playoffs not as special, or this kind of it makes the regular season seem not as important, I would disagree with that. I would completely disagree with that. This isn't like the NBA, right? Right now in the NBA, you have 16 teams making playoffs. You have 30 teams in the league, so you have more than 50%. 14 out of 32, still more than what it was just 2 weeks ago. But at the same time, it's still less than 50%. And in a one-game format, that changes everything, right? If you talk about a 7-game series, if you give me 2 teams in a 7-game series, I'm going to tell you more times than not, the better team's always going to win. Always. You can look back at Golden State when they were 8th seed and beat Dallas, the Mavericks, probably about 15 years, maybe even 20 years ago now. You can give me examples, I know you can, of when a lower seed beat a higher seed in a 7-game series. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's far less likely, or it's far less often to see it that way than what we see in the NFL playoffs. Right now in the NFL playoffs, you see Baltimore losing to the Tennessee Titans. You see you see New England losing to the Tennessee Titans. You see these upsets, these matchups that don't go well for other teams, and we want to see the team that can handle everything the best, right? A team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who when Houston came to town and their high-power passing attack, they said, we can beat that, no problem. We'll beat you. They even spotted them 24 points, still beat them. But then Tennessee came to town. They said, oh, we'll run it. We'll keep the ball away from you. We got this guy named Travis Henry. He's going to steal the show. What happened? Kansas City beat them there. And then you have the Niners in the Super Bowl. Niners boasting a huge defense, boasting a 3-man attack in the backfield. But they had a pretty good quarterback, right, all season long. A guy who took them into New Orleans and went toe-to-toe with Drew Brees and came out victorious. Kansas City beat him there. So we found ourselves a Super Bowl champion that was well-rounded, that could play good defense when they needed to, that could run the ball when they needed to, and most importantly, they had a quarterback that could pretty much do anything he wanted to when he wanted to, and that's why they won the Super Bowl. Jack Patrick comes in. How you doing? Welcome to Billievers Talk, man. Good to see you. You make zillions to play a game. High risk, high reward. Hard to get concussions, stapling TPS reports in a cubicle 40 hours a week, but you won't make millions. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I completely understand that, and that's kind of where I'm at too. Like, listen, if you're willing to sign this contract, if you're willing to, or this new collective bargaining agreement, if you're willing to vote 66% of players in the player union are willing to vote saying they approve of this. Don't come at me in 20 years talking about head injuries and how playing that 17th game. And you know what you can do? If you're a star player and you don't like the idea of a 17th game, here's what you can do. Instead of playing, and I'm just going to take these numbers because it's a little bit easier on my head, instead of playing 11 seasons of 16 games, where you're playing, what would that be? That'd be 160, that'd be 176 games. Play 10 seasons of 17, then you play 170, evens out all right, right? Just take one season off your career, you play the same amount of games, and no one's the wiser, right? Right now we have players retiring after, we just saw Luke Kuechly, right? Luke Kuechly, who's been in the league for what, 7 years, 8 years? He's announcing his retirement. Okay, and you know what? I'm not mad at him for doing that. I say, hey, great career. Was glad I got to see you play. You were definitely a great NFL player, but you gotta do what's best for you. And I'm not gonna be upset about that. I'm not gonna complain about that. I'm not going to argue about that. You can retire. That's the luxury that you have now. That you can retire at this time and say, hey, that's great for you, right? That's what you want to do. That's awesome. But that's what you could do if you don't like this new idea of playing an extra game. Take a season off. Instead of playing 10 seasons, play 9. Instead of playing 12 seasons, play 11. If that's what you want to do, and again, we would be none the wiser, okay? Because we know, like I said, we've heard players speak out on this and say they don't want to have an extra 17th game. And we can understand why. I understand why. But if this passes, that means the majority of players agree to it. And I just won't feel bad for you at that point. But yeah, one thing I'm really excited about is that extra 2 playoff games with the extra team. And another thing about the playoffs, which I didn't know until I read the new collective bargaining agreement, or the parts that leaked, of course, that they're telling us about. And that's another thing, guys, we have to be ready for new stuff too. If the players sign this and it passes, I can't wait to actually see the full collective bargaining agreement to see what other changes out there. These are the ones we're being told about. We're being told about the 17th game potentially coming down in 2022-2023 NFL season. We're being talked about these 7 playoff teams from each conference, only one team getting that bye week, right? So that's awesome. And you're talking about that one team who, by the way, if you got bye week in the playoffs before wild card weekend, you didn't get paid. You didn't get paid for how well you did during the regular season. You did too good to get paid. I don't know if I agree with that. I can see an argument for both sides, but now with the new CBA, according to reports, that team, the number 1 seed from each conference, will get paid a game check, a wild card game check for the wild card weekend, even though they're not playing in it. So that must be a luxurious offer on the table for a lot of these NFL teams who think they have a chance over the next 10 years to be a 1 seed in their conference, because the collective bargaining agreement only lasts 10 seasons, right? So you're talking about it starts in the 2021 season, will last till the 2011 season. No, 2021 season will last till the 2031 season. Just hard to think that we've come this far. You know what I'm saying? We're already in 2020. That's insane to me. But yeah, we'll last from 2021 to 2031. We don't have to worry about contract negotiations. We don't have to worry about CBA. Another thing about this new CBA that was reported is that Roger Goodell will not be the judge, jury, and executioner when it comes to disciplining NFL players. And I like that to some degree, but at the same time, that didn't bug me that much. I know a lot of people, now there was inconsistencies. I'm not going to argue with people that there were inconsistencies. Definitely were inconsistencies, but man, compared to what used to be, and the fact of the matter is that we're talking about a small pool of players. We're talking about a small pool of players, who take heat because, again, in the news, we love posting the bad news, right? 90% to 95% of your NFL players not going to get in any trouble. Not going to get in any trouble most of the time, but they're not going to get reported on. Do you know why? Because it doesn't make news. It doesn't make headlines, right? So we're talking about a small pool of players, but now there is going to be a third party who comes in to decide a lot of these punishments when it comes to drug issues in the NFL. Another thing is that marijuana will no longer be something that is tested for in the new CBA. So that's something to look at as well. As again, guys, I thank you for joining me on Billievers Talk. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like this video, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the new CBA, the new changes. Like I said, a way that this affects the Buffalo Bills is we might be saying hello to a mini Toronto series again. Okay, and another thing about the 17 game schedule, that means only 3 playoff games. Okay, so if they move to a 17 game schedule, they take away that 4th playoff game. In my opinion, that means the 3rd playoff game, instead of being the dress rehearsal game, is played more like your 4th preseason game. Your 2nd preseason game is then that dress rehearsal game that we're used to seeing. Okay, I think we still see a lot of teams giving their star players, giving their key players, giving their starters time off for that last preseason game. Last thing you want is for them to get injured in the preseason, getting them ready for week 1. Because the way I think it's going to happen, but again, this all it has to come out from the CBA, is instead of that 4th preseason game, I think we move the NFL schedule back 1 week, and then that 17th game still takes us to the first Sunday in February. So we'll see what happens. Goodell is bad. Hey James, how you doing? He's just inconsistent, right? I mean, I think Goodell hasn't been that great, but here's a good thing about commissioners. And when you think yours isn't doing so hot in your league, why you look over at MLB, you see Rob Manfred doing nothing about the Astro scandal and saying, you know what? Maybe Roger Goodell isn't the worst commissioner out there. You see the NHL, who is in their commissioner's tenure, has had 2 strikes. And you say, well, you know what? Maybe Roger Goodell isn't the worst commissioner. He is inconsistent. So it's nice to have this arbitrator come in and kind of say, hey, I'm the third party. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. Here's the punishment. Now, will that arbitrator know how the NFL works? Will that arbitrator know? How much will that arbitrator know about the NFL? Will it be a legal analyst? Who will it be? That is a key question too, because that arbitrator should be the same person for everything too. Because if it's not the same person, then you're going to have the same inconsistencies. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Is that like a new job position to be the arbitrator for this, be the third party for when there are issues between the NFL and some of the players in the league? I think that's going to be very interesting, going to be very telling to see what happens here in the future, because we can get this 10-year CBA and have the same issues. Still the same issues with, lack of consistency if it's not the same person all the time. Jack Patrick comes in and says, no more weed checks. That guy from the Browns must be bummed. He's going to spend 20 to 40 years behind iron bars. Well, he got in trouble with the police. He did not get in trouble with the NFL yet. So, yeah, might be spending 20 years behind bars. Probably won't see the NFL field much anytime too soon. But if he does get away with it, or if he does get away with not so much jail time, which we all see these celebrities do that kind of stuff all the time. Who knows how they do it, but we know they do it. It would be interesting to see if the NFL then decides to crack down themselves, since the legal system. Now, remember, the legal system and NFL, 2 different entities. So if the legal system decides not to crack down that hard, but he's still found guilty, the NFL then can take reign and say, here's our punishment that you have to do with. And it's, again, if you want to go by consistency, it needs to be at least 4 games. But again, the NFL, and that's gonna be something new too. That's me, like, apparently it just happened this past season, won't be the same next season. So you're still gonna have consistency issues when this new CBA starts. So we're gonna have to work through that, or the NFL is gonna have to work through that. Glad that's not my problem. Again, this arbitrator hopefully is the same person throughout, so that way there is some more consistency. But we'll see what happens. Is it cold here? I am currently in my partially finished basement. If you guys have been following, Jack, I know you have. You know that I'm finishing up my basement. We'll have it finished by the start of next season, next regular season, I should say. And I look forward to showing that off to you guys when it gets finished. But yeah, the heat in here still isn't working the greatest. So I'm in my my thick Buffalo Bills poncho, and I feel pretty toasty right now. But yeah, it's a little cold right here, Jack. Tell me about the weather there and why. What's the weather like over there, weatherman? I appreciate the check-in, though. I appreciate that. But talking more about this new CBA agreement, Again, let's get the facts straight right now. The owners have agreed to it. Okay, the owners met today, had an owners meeting, and they have agreed to it. Again, this took 10 months of negotiations, but you know that they started that probably a few months prior to that as well. The membership, I'm reading this straight from NFL.com. Membership voted today to accept the negotiations on the principal elements of the new CBA. So that's great news. That's really great news. That means we're making progress, right? Because last thing we really want to do is go into next season, the start of the 2020 season, which starts March 18th, and not know what's going to happen in the future. 10 years ago, we had that issue. We had an issue where we weren't sure what was going to happen. Was there going to be a strike? We know the officials went on strike a little bit ago, but we were happy to see the players come back. But yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see what the players do. Now, the players are meeting tomorrow via telephone, right? All of the representatives of all 32 NFL teams are meeting tomorrow to discuss how they feel about the CBA. Now, we have heard some players speak out on how they don't like the idea of a 17-game schedule, and that includes J.J. Watt, that includes Emmanuel Sanders, that includes some other players. So, in order for this to pass, the players need to pass it by 2/3, right? 66.7% of the vote. So you're talking about 21 football teams. 21 players need to approve this and say, no, we agree with this. Because not only are they talking about moving from 16 to 17 games, they're also talking about giving the players a higher percentage of the revenue, right? Moving that salary cap up. I think currently the owners get 53%, the players and the team gets 47%. I think they're thinking about making that 42 or 52 to 48 is what is being reported. So that changes things. 1% in billions of dollars is still a couple $100 million. So you'll take it, right? You'll take it. And it's funny how money talks, though. As I ranted a little bit earlier, everyone, all these people, including owners, including players, are talking about NFL safety and how when you make the game safer and do all this, do all that, and yet money still reigns supreme. That's the bottom line. It's the dollar still reigns over common sense. And you know what? Like I said, as a fan, just don't come crying to me in 20 years that, oh, we didn't know the kind of effects a 17-game season can have on you. Now, listen, I feel bad for all the players that did play back prior to CTE being found out. I do feel bad for all the players that played during the time period where the NFL was not being honest about what they learned about head injuries and all that kind of stuff. I feel bad for them. I wish them nothing but the best. I feel like the NFL treated you unfairly. I have no issues with the lawsuit that the NFL has since settled, yada, yada, yada. But now all that's out there. All that's out there. We have all that information as Jack comes in with 84 degrees and a gorgeous trade wind blowing between 10 and 20 miles per hour. Yeah, thanks. The palms. Yeah, you must be having a good time. Must be having a good time. And besides that, it's only like 5:30 there right now, so the sun's still shining bright. You must really be enjoying yourself, Jack. So thanks for that weather update there in Hawaii. But again, I don't want to hear anybody about complain about playing a 17-game schedule. It's about making more money, and that's what you're proving if you do agree to this CBA. But the more interesting thing and the funner part for me is the idea of the seventh playoff team. In the new CBA, each conference gets one more playoff team. So you'll have 7 playoff teams. Only the first seed gets a bye, okay? So that means the first seed gets a bye, and if it works the same way it does now, they would play the lowest seed to win in the wild card weekend. But there's no saying that it does work the same way. They could move to a bracket system like the NBA or NHL does, where your second round opponent is predetermined by the winner of the first round. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? Again, that can all change in this CBA as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. But if the rest of the playoff rules stay the same, that means the number 1 overall pick gets that bye week, and then they play the worst seed that won from wild card weekend. A new wrinkle about the playoffs that I didn't know was not in the current CBA, that's in the new CBA, is that the number 1 seed, even though they're not going to play wild card weekend, they still get paid for wild card weekend. So currently you have your first 2 teams in each conference getting a bye. They don't get paid for that bye week. So they play well enough to get that number one, number two seed, but they don't get the paycheck that the 34, 5, and 6 seed gets, which you can argue about the fairness of that or not, right? They're not playing that weekend, so what are they getting paid for? But at the same time, you could say, so we need to suck enough to get an extra paycheck, but we want to be good enough to get the third seed. Like there's a benefit when it comes to the wallet then in getting the third overall seed. If now obviously you probably get paid more if you make it to the divisional round, so you want to make it that far. But still, if you're not getting paid for a game, for example, the Houston Texans going into division weekend got paid more money than the Kansas City Chiefs at that point, because Kansas City Chiefs didn't get paid anything for the bye week. Houston got paid for that game against the Bills. The Bills got paid for that game against Houston. The Bills didn't win, but they still got paid that wild card money, and a team like Kansas City or Baltimore didn't. I don't know. I can make an argument both ways, but that's how I feel about that. I feel like there's arguments to be made on both sides of it. Also, in this new CBA agreement, Roger Goodell not playing judge, jury, and executioner. There will be arbitrator, a third party coming in to talk about penalties. So we hopefully will have more consistency when it comes to talking about NFL players getting penalized for off the field activity. Now, from what we have heard, the NFL will not be drug testing for marijuana or weed anymore. So that might change some things in the drug policy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But those are some of the changes. And again, the 17-week schedule not expected to hit until about 2022 if it happens at all. But if that changes to 17 weeks, maybe the Buffalo Bills get that Toronto series back, right? Because there will be that extra game in there. And the plan for the extra game is to have 8 home games, 8 away games, and then 1 neutral site game. Where that game comes from, again, I have no idea. I have no idea what the NFL plans to do with that extra game. Do they just do like a lottery and say, hey, you're playing this team this week, hey, you're playing this team this week? Like, it doesn't make sense to me now. But when the new CBA comes out, if it's approved, then we will know what that schedule is going to look like. But that means we could see more games in Toronto, more games in Mexico City, maybe even open up some new cities that haven't had games yet. Vancouver, Montreal, all these opportunities open up. You're still talking about London. Joe wrote down my email. I want to send you a gift from Hawaii for the great work. Oh, thanks a lot. I will email you. I appreciate that. I always appreciate gifts, man. I'll appreciate that very much. But again, guys, join the conversation over here if you haven't already. Again, Jack, I appreciate that, and I'll be sure to email you as well, and so that way you have my email and we can stay in contact. When I come to visit you in Hawaii, that'll be a lot of fun. But guys, tomorrow, like I said, I will be doing a video on free agency. It probably won't be a live video, but you want to make sure you check that out. Guys, if you're not subscribed to Billievers Talk, hit that subscribe button for continuing Buffalo Bills news. Breaking news, I'll have that covered for you right here on Billievers Talk as the offseason continues. We have the Combine coming up next week. I will be doing an episode on who to keep your eye on at the NFL Combine, or at least who I'm going to be keeping my eye on at the NFL Combine. So I hope you guys appreciate that. Like I said, tomorrow we got a free agency video coming out. And then Mondays, I've started a new series. If you haven't checked it out, Could It Happen series. Could It Happen Buffalo series. We're going to Buffalo Sports, so you can expect a new episode this coming Monday. Last Monday, we asked, could Josh Allen win NFL MVP in 2020? And I look forward to the next episode as well. So like I said, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment if you're not watching this live. What do you think about the new CBA negotiations? Maybe by the time you're watching this, the players either passed or rejected this CBA, and we'll know a little bit more about it. So let me know what you think. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Like I said, I'll see you tomorrow. Until I do, go Bills.